And now we continue with close reading, actually preparing a lesson that you would do. But I'll look very quickly at something, let's say something so simple as the Gettysburg Address. Now, there are quite a few people who say that students should not memorize documents anymore. Well, I'm not a believer in that. I believe that they should memorize it, but before they memorize it, they need to actually understand it. Because this is something, as a country, as a people, there are a few documents that are in our history that are necessary. And of course, we know even in Bible, we have our students memorize Bible verses. But the Gettysburg Address by Abraham Lincoln is one of the most famous documents that we have in our country. And we want to make sure that the students have an understanding of it and using it, part of it, as a teaching lesson as we look at the period of the Gettysburg, the Battle of Gettysburg. So the first thing that we want to do as we are about to prepare this document for close reading is we want to save it. And I save it in my folder called Reading in the Content Area, because that's what Cloze actually is. Close reading is reading in the content area, so teaching strategy for reading in the content area. And then I look at, we're not going to do the entire document, I just do a few, and then you get the idea of how to do it yourself. So I'm looking for words that the students would not understand. I'm looking for phrases that might seem archaic to the students. I'm looking for those things that I want to use as a part of my teaching strategy to continue as we are looking at the Battle of Gettysburg and the Civil War. So what stands out at the very beginning, of course, is 407 years ago. And this is an excellent teaching opportunity to help the students understand what a score and what a score is. And we'll read through a little bit more. Our fathers brought forth on this continent and the nation conceived in liberty. This might be a word that even though they might know, we want to help them understand and dedicate it to the proposition. Here is a reading word, vocabulary word that we want them to understand, that all men are created equal. Hopefully they understand the rest of that. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, and we've already done those, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. Now, there's nothing wrong with the word itself, but we want to make sure that they know. Perhaps we can now transfer this over to helping them to see on the map where that great battlefield is. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place. Final resting place might seem simple to them, but again, we want to help them to understand where the resting place, what it means by resting place, if it's the same thing as a graveyard. For those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. Okay, now we could do more, but I'm going to stop here and I'm going to show you how I would do this. Now, I would go then to the bottom of this page, but actually insert a new page. And my new page would be called my word bank. My word bank page. And I then go back to the first thing that I highlighted. And I'm actually going to cut this out. And I replace it with a blank. Here. I go down to my word bank and I place what I cut. And I go here. And I cut conceived. And we take conceived and we put that in our word bank. And why am I creating a word bank? I'm creating a word bank because some of your students might actually need this. It depends on what level you're doing this with, what level of students. Once you create a word bank, it doesn't mean that you're using it. It means that you have it in case you need to use it. And it's also helpful to help you remember what it was that you cut out. And adding another one here. Took out proposition. You're cutting the great battlefield. You know the level of your students. Usually this is something that you would, this document, depending on the grade level, but you can do this with your 5th graders. and especially with your 7th and 8th graders. Let me go back and add this here. And now we have the blanks. You can put the blanks, you can do as many as you want to start the document. So now we need to save it again. And this time we're saving as Cloze blank. And on the very first day that you want to teach the document, and yes, I really mean teach the document as a strategy in your social studies classroom, you give them the document that is blank. You don't give them the document that has everything in it. You give it to them blank, and you give it to them on an individual basis, and you say, okay, now we want to look at the Gettysburg Address. And I'd like for you to fill in as many blanks as you think that you can fill in. And this works, this is actually can be used when you do it like this. You use it as an anticipation guide as well. And then when you're done, then you tell them, and if it's a struggling reader, or if it's one you think might get stressed out because they have no idea of what words would go in the bank, in those blanks, you can give them the word bank. But I think for the very first day, you can just give it to them and see how much they know. You're using it also as a KWL document, as a part of your KWL graphic organizer that you can use. Then after you've given this them with the blanks, then you tell them now you can work with the partner, or they can work with the group when they fill the blanks in. And after they've worked with the partner or worked with the group, then you go back and you say, okay, now here's the document, and you give them the document itself, the one that we started with. And you actually read through it with them, reading it the very first time you read it. And you want them to see how many they got right, or what they didn't understand. If there's some more that you need to highlight, if you have a overhead projector or a docu-camera, you can put this up on the screen. It's just so many things that you can do with this. But this is just a very, very, very brief overview of what close reading would look like as you are doing the preparation. Something else that you can add to your lesson plans, your teaching strategies. Okay? All right. This is close reading in social studies, reading in the content area.